Hello, job seekers. Melanie here with CGL Recruiting, and we have an amazing guest for our video today. So many of you have asked questions about trying to pivot outside of the industry that you're in, but also a lot of you have said you don't want to leave your current industry. And I thought it would be amazing to have David Gibson, who you can see on the screen with me here today, who's going to talk about how he successfully has done a pivot and even done it in staying within his industry and utilizing all the great skills and experience he already has. So David, thank you so much for being willing to join us and to share your knowledge and information with everybody today.
Well, I'm extremely happy to be here. It's great to be a guest on your show. Like I said beforehand, it's funny for me to be on this side. Usually I'm the one asking all the questions and stuff and kind of getting to sit back. I always tell people when they watch my show, they don't watch it for me, they watch it for my guests. So it's fun to be on this side of it.
So David, for those of you that don't know you as well as I do and haven't seen all your shows and everything, can you please tell everybody a little bit about, what you do today?
So I am a co-founder and the president of my company called Gibson Reports. Gibson Reports is a oil and gas market research firm with a specific focus into the directional drilling, MWD, and drilling in general market in the U.S. or lower 48, where we supply service companies and operators alike information about what's taking place in the marketplace. As far as who's doing what, where they're doing it, things like that. We also do some other custom software projects where we'll do custom built out software packages or something that may help a company, workflow a little bit faster. Just more kind of like bespoke stuff, not, enterprise level things like that. And we also, and also for me, I also host a show called the VDoor Locksmith Show, which airs every Friday live at 10 a.m. on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So feel free to find us on any one of those, Gibson Reports or my LinkedIn profile. And where we interview industry for professionals. We also do technical presentations. So people like Fred Dupriest or Graham Benson-Wilmot, Bill Lesso. We have those kind of people come on and be able to give extremely deep technical presentations that are essentially evergreen. They're going to be there forever for people to be able to watch. Also have another show that's a post-production show, so it's not a live show. I have another post-production show called How It's Done, where we go in and we videotape the process of oil and gas companies or oil field service companies manufacturing goods that go into the workplace and go out there and help us to be able to do the work that we do on a daily basis. So we've had things like drill bits or stabilizers or mud motors, stators, power sections, all of these things, just seeing how cool it is to see those kind of things built up. I'm an engineer at heart, so those are some of the things that that you'll see on it. And so those are three of the many things that I do, and what keeps me busy right now.
I think everybody went through withdrawals in 2020 when OTC got canceled. And thank goodness your show and all of the information that you give out gave everybody still that technical, oh gosh, I wanted to get more technical data and I wanted to see more. So your timing is brilliant and your content is so rich that's why I'm sure it's been so successful with everybody. But what I really want to talk with you about today is for everybody to understand your path and to understand, back when you went for your mechanical engineering degree and what you thought you were going to be doing and kind of how your career went from first starting way back then.
So honestly, the whole school I went to was University of Texas at Arlington. And the whole reason I went there was for their Formula SAE. It was the Formula Society of Automotive Engineering racing team. I wanted to be a race car engineer. I wanted to design and build race cars. I wanted to be in Formula One, MotoGP, whatever. That's the kind of work I wanted to be doing. I got on the race team and I started educating myself more about the racing industry and seeing how it's more of like a hobby for rich guys as opposed to a place where you can actually make money and grow and develop and things like that. And the automotive industry, you usually end up like designing seats that go inside of a minivan before you get to do something cool. So I was like, no, not for me. And throughout my my educational portion of my life, I worked at UPS, and I was at UPS for 6.5 years. I was a facility engineer. I was, running a entire facility at the age of 23, 24, making sure all the maintenance and everything was done. And by the time I finished school, I went to my boss and was like, "Hey man, I'm ready for that promotion." Because it was required at the time. And they were like, "Look, we're under a hiring freeze or a promotion freeze." And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." And so at that point in time, I was like, "You know what? I'm just going to stick my resume out there. I'll see what happens." I got a contact from a recruiter at Big Blue. They called me, brought me in from interviews. There's a whole story to that. I've done that on other podcasts, so you can go listen to those. But then I got my first job offer from Big Blue to be able to go work in Perth, Australia. And so when I got that opportunity, I was like, "Heck yeah, I'm taking this." Yeah. So I packed my life inside of a suitcase, flew down there, crossed the first street where they drive opposite sides of the road, and almost got run over, literally walking into the building where I worked. It was a fun time. Really, really, really enjoyed it. Living in Perth, Australia was absolutely amazing. Got to see kangaroos and stuff like that. But then from my journey from there, 08, 09, we had the downturn, economic recession, ended up getting laid off, which is nothing wrong with it. Happens, right? I came back to the US. Job options still weren't there. So I took a 6-month break and went down to Guatemala to learn Spanish. Did that, came back. Job market was looking a little bit better. Still wanted to start my own company. So I took another year, tried to start my own company. At that time, I always say this, I had no business starting my own business. I knew nothing. I look back on it and I was like, I was an idiot. So after that year of failed efforts or lessons learned, I then started getting back into the job market, got back into the U.S. land, MWD directional drilling operations, applied for every job I could, wasn't getting any responses, started picking up the phone and just cold calling companies. Finally, one company picked up and they said, "What would you do in this safety event?" I gave them my answer and they're like, "Come down here tomorrow and we'll give you an interview." And jumped on my motorcycle, drove down there, and then I was like, "Hey, can I use your bathroom to change in my suit for the interview?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." Did that. When I came back out, did it. Ended up getting the job. About a month later, I was actually working out on a rig. Since then, I've bounced around through a couple of different companies. Finally got to the point in my career where I was like, I'm not a good employee. I need to work for myself. Was actually let go from my last employer. Kind of, the way I acted, they shouldn't have kept me on. But, nonetheless, that point in time, decided I was like, all right, I've got to start my own thing. And that's when my cousin and I co-founded Gibson Reports. He's the data, he's the programming guy, writes all the code, and I am the everything else. Marketing, branding, sales, dealing with the accountants, customers, new ideas, writing all the checks. I do everything else. He takes care of the code, and it's a perfect balance. And so then that's what got me to where I am now, and where I've really been able to grow myself within the position that I am, and be able to better understand who I am as far as an employee, who I am as far as a business owner, where I'm at in the industry, and the different things that I can do, and the things that I like to do where I can express myself through the work that I do.
Yeah. Most times, we see when things kind of go south between an employee and a company, it's because they're not happy. They haven't found their passion. They haven't found their place. And when they get into that, where you have totally found your place, I mean, look how good everything is going with Gibson Reports and VDoor Locksmith. And it's because you have that passion and desire to do it day in and day out. So
most definitely.
So making that change, though, because it's hard for people you've always had this entrepreneurial bent, right? If you're willing to, with no experience, go out and start something, you're pretty entrepreneurial minded. But when you got to that point where you actually did this, and what were some of the challenges that you came across when you tried to start up doing this pivot into Gibson Reports and VDoor?
I look back on it and I wish I would have done better of actually writing a diary for the first 100 days that we had the company, because there was so much that took place during that 100 days, not only in my personal life, but also professionally. right? I had a rent house at the time, and like it was like 30 days into having, or 45 days into having the company, the renters like vacated. It turned out they were meth heads, and like the whole house was destroyed. And it was like, not right now, not right now. I don't want that. I've got other stuff I need to be doing. And so it was like learning to be able to have that balance. But I think one of the biggest things that I really learned, and some of the challenges that I faced, was that like I knew I could work hard. And what I actually found out is that I worked harder when I was employed for somebody else than I do for myself. Like there was like, as an entrepreneur, you got to work so hard, And it's like, no, like when I was stressing and I was doing all of the things for other people, like I was trying to always go above and beyond, always trying to get approval for some, what I like to say is like, the fairy dust of what's in the future. Maybe if I work really hard for the next 10 years, I'll get they'll offer me an equity position, or I'll get a promotion, or I'll get more responsibility, or I'll get a raise or something. There was nothing definitive about any of it. So the only option was to work extremely, extremely hard.
Right.
And have hopes that something would happen. As opposed to now, like I can know exactly how much work I need to put in, how much I need to do to be able to get specific results that I have 100% control over, or at least the majority of the control over. Obviously clients and the market and things have some control in there as well. But as far as like what actually gets produced and gets put out there, I have that control. And so there were a lot of learning instances in knowing that. And, then other things like, just trying to get my email set up for my company took 2 days of just like nonstop craziness. And it was like, oh yeah, you buy this web domain and you get a free year of Google, Gmail, email stuff for whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'll just dump this into my Outlook because I like to use Outlook. And then they're like, well, it requires 2-factor authentication, so this isn't going to work. And I was like, okay, well, then let me go set up a new email. Well, that one didn't work in my Outlook. And I actually like band-aided it together, and it's still band-aided to this day because I'm not dealing with that again. I was like, I spent probably 5 to 6 days within the first 30 days of the business doing stuff that could have been done months prior. Like it had nothing to do with like me selling to clients and calling clients and producing content and making revenue. And
Right.
So anytime I talk to new entrepreneurs, I always say, look, try to find all of those things that don't matter, right? And get those done now, so that when the time comes that you launch the business and it's your first day and you're like, all right, website's built, everything's done, logo's created, let's go make a marketing splash. Let's go tell everybody on LinkedIn that this is my new thing, right? Make sure all of that other stuff is already done and already taken care of. The logo's done. The email addresses are done. The website's already built. Don't go, hey, we're starting a company, and not have your logo done, not have your phone number ready to go. I'll have all of that other stuff. Get your bank account set up, get the insurance done, get, whatever it is, get all, your first pitch, the first revision of your pitch, get your pricing points done. There's so much there that needs to be done early on. And when you make that launch, you want to be concentrated on one thing, and that's solving problems for your clients, nothing else. And so that first little bit, that was the biggest learning stuff for me, was just like, this isn't what I want to be doing, my personal life or a business. Like, but I had to do it. I had to get it done. Got it done. We had our first paying client within 30 days of launching the business.
There's so many things that I think people take for granted, that you just, just call IT or whatever. And when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have that. I can remember when I started my journey, and I'm one of those planner people. My husband bought this ginormous, like from Lowe's, melamine board. And it was huge. It was like, I don't know, like 6x9 or 6x8 or something like that. And we used it as a giant whiteboard. And I just stuck it in my room, and every time I would walk by it, I'd take my little dry erase and I'd write something else that I thought I had to do while I was still working my other job. And I had it all kind of just because there's so many things that are constantly going off the top of your head. So you're right. I mean, if you don't get that done in advance, oh my gosh, it'll drive you crazy. So
yeah, if you're trying to deal with clients and then you're like, your client's like, hey, well, yeah, just send me over the proposal. And you're like, oh, I don't have a letterhead made in Word yet. So now I need to go make a letterhead. I don't have my logo done to be able to put on the presentation that I would send you. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation format figured out yet. I don't have this. So instead of just emailing your client right away, you've got to spend a day doing stuff that they're like, you don't already have that, you know, like, so there's a lot of these like little things where you're like,
yeah.
make a letterhead, figure out what your PowerPoint presentation template's going to be, right? You know, put the banners at the bottom, put the line across, you know, you can have the date and the numbers, you can have your logo on there, get all of these things done. So when somebody asks for something, you can deliver it right away, because when you're a small business, you need to be agile. You need to be able to react fast. You need to be, as soon as somebody hits that contact us form on your website, boom, you're emailing them back and say, hey, I noticed you hit up the website. Hope you liked everything you see. Is there anything else I might be able to help you with here? Some things you might like to see, blah, 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 blah. You know, and that, you know, that's where you start to be able to transition into just doing stuff to being able to make money. And it needs to be the cornerstone of any entrepreneurial journey is trying to get the first couple of dollars in. The whole thing of people like raising money and they're so focused on, oh, I'm going to raise money from VCs and this, that, and the other. Like, you're just I know how people hate to hear the term bootstrap, but like, grow organically, because if you grow with money from somebody else, you're going to miss out on a lot of lessons learned. You're going to miss out on a lot of stuff. So when you miss out on a lot of stress too.
When you started this pivot, right, you doing from a traditional, you know, company corporate job into what you do today, how did your network react? Were they supportive of you doing this? Did people question you? I mean, how did you get from your network when you tried?
What was really surprising to me was how supportive my network was. And so when I distinctly remember in my prior position, some of the people that I was selling to, I was having a hard time getting in the door with, you know, an oil and gas operator, for instance.
Right.
Well, the data that I have now for my company allowed me to be able to go and see, oh, look, this company does work for this company. Well, maybe I'll contact the sales rep at that company and say, hey, look, we're not competitive. We have, you know, complementary products that would help each other out and stuff. Could you help me get in the door with this company? Nothing. Nobody responds. Nobody cares. Nobody says anything. Like, I tried that numerous times, and it's just like, we're both salespeople. We're both trying to, you know, make a living, try to do our thing. Nobody was helping me. And then as soon as I started my company and I started attending some of the industry events, you know, monthly luncheons and things like that, you know, people were coming up to me that I had never met before. And they're like, man, it's so awesome, man. Congratulations. Way to go. Dude, super proud of you. If there's anything you need, just let me know. And I was like, okay, cool. I mean, I appreciate that. And then, you know, exchange cards or something. And then all of a sudden they'll call me and be like, hey, I set up a meeting with you for these people here. You know, they're going to help you out. And I was just like, what in the, like so yes, the network responded as to being very, very supportive, more supportive than I could have ever imagined. Like, it was just like, I don't know. It was like, I don't know if people were like trying to live vicariously through me, that they wanted to see the entrepreneur succeed. And they're like, we want to see David go. Or it was just like the fact that I was no longer a threat to them in their business, or that they didn't want to be associated with me in the company I was with before. I don't know what it was, but it was a complete night and day difference. I mean, it was very, very distinct on how willing people were to be able to help me out, and not like, oh, hey, we'll buy your product out of pity because, you know, like, David needs to survive. It was, hey, man, we really want to help you. I really want to be able to help you. Like, just call me. Just let me know. I want it. Like people were very eager for that. And so it was an absolute amazing experience. And I can't say that that's what's going to happen for everybody. But I would say that, you know, I think it's just something in our industry to be able to help out new budding entrepreneurs and looking to be able to say, hey, what can I do to be able to help you out? Even if they are in another organization, maybe if they're in another organization, they have that entrepreneurial spirit, they want to be able to attach themselves and, you know, help you out and maybe see and learn and grow from, you know, the experience that you're having.
So did you have a strong network before you went out on your own? or did you really build a stronger one? I mean, I know, of course, you've picked up so many followers, right? Because of all the live shows that you do. But before that, were you a strong networker?
I always thought I was a strong networker before. You
Thought.
know, I thought I was. You know, it's hard to say now. It's like, yes, now I think that like my network has definitely gotten substantially larger, and has, you know, from the start of the company to now is, I mean, there's a huge difference there, right? I remember at the start of the company, it was like, oh yeah, I know tons of people in this business, and then it was like I started quickly learning. It's like, oh, I know like a third of the people that I need to know. I don't know all of them, right? It's like, oh, I know one person at that company, but that's not the decision maker. And it things change when it's just like you call somebody and they're like, yeah, man, I don't know who to tell you to talk to. You're like, okay, I don't know somebody at that company that can help me, right? So what's funny about it is that when right about the time that I started the Gibson Reports, I was also interviewing for a job. There was a job out there that I was interviewing for. And of course I got to them saying, it's between you and somebody else. You guys are the last two candidates. Now we want you to talk to a board member. We want you to interview further. Like, you know, we're having a hard time picking who it is. And I had already been let go at this point in time. And so like I was out on my own, and I kind of had this in the back pocket. It was like, oh, if I get this job, then like I'll go this route. If this job doesn't happen, then it's 110% Gibson Reports. And obviously I didn't get the job. And when they called to tell me, they were like, look, David, we just want to let you know that you didn't get the job. And so of course I was like, what the F, man? Like I thought I was like the candidate here. I don't see how somebody else could beat me out for this. And I mean, because I'm not gonna be shy. I was like, I didn't get the job, so I can be like blunt with them. But I asked the guy flat out. I was like, what was the differentiator? Like, you know, what caused this? And this will always stick with me in my head forever. Is they're like, well, we think this person had a bigger network than you. And I was like, okay.
Really?
I was like, all right, we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, things have a way of turning around because, oh my goodness, look at your network now.
And it was one of those things to where it's like, I wouldn't say that was the driving force, but I did take it personally. And I was like, this will not be the reason I don't get something in the future. I don't want to say get a job, because I'm not really in the job market. I mean, I could be hired for the right money, or stupid to say no to stupid money. But it was one of those things where I was just like, okay, not going to happen again. I'm going to make sure that if this is ever in question, that it's answered in a positive light for me. And that's a lot of the, the things if, for the people that may be watching this, if you do get turned down for a job, be sure to ask them, and if they ghost you and they don't give you any feedback, hey, that's an organization you didn't want to work for anyways. But if they do give you the feedback, don't take it personally against that person. Take it personally into yourself to be able to think about what it is and what you can do different, so that in the future, either, because for me, it really just came down to like the specific example this person gave me. They were like, when we asked you guys about your network, you said you had a big network and you felt like you had a very strong network. This person, was able to actually give us names and stuff. And I was like, it was just name drop. I was like, I think name dropping is a little passe, but I was like, so I needed to name drop during the interview to be able to show that I know people. But I was like, hey,
I think it is strong, though, that to show that, companies do care about how big your network is, right? They care about how you worked with other individuals and who you can call on for resources going forward. So
particularly for this position, because this was a new division for the company. It was something kind of outside of their box. And so the person that was going to be taking on this role was really going to be the leader of that entire vertical.
Right.
So there was nobody else within the organization that knew that industry. So this was their way to be able to branch off that direction. And so, looking back on it, it's like, okay, I should have played up the, my network at the time. And looking back though, compared to now, I'm like, network was okay. Wasn't huge or anything. And I wouldn't say it's huge now, but it's in comparison, it's it's much larger now than it was then.
But things do happen for a reason, right? And so this ended up working
100%.
out okay for you either way. So as other people are trying to make this pivots, as our industry is still down and as the market in general is still down, what other advice would you give them in closing of here's what I recommend as you're trying to think about this?
I think one of the big things is that it's okay to make less money. It's okay to not have nice, fancy things. It's better to have opportunities than it is possessions or depleting assets, depreciating assets like a car or something.
Right.
I would much rather be able to have the opportunity of being able to join a small startup and take a small equity interest and be a part of them and say, hey, look, you guys don't have to pay me. I can just be a part of this. So being able to get your personal finances in order so that you don't have to specifically seek a job that pays more than $80,000 a year. And you're like, it has to pay me $80,000 a year or more, or 70 or 45 or 35, whatever the number is.
Right.
And say, this is what I have to do to be able to maintain the lifestyle that I have now. I'm willing to go work for some a-hole or work at some terrible company or work at a place where it's an extremely far drive, right? So I've got to be away from my family. Now I can't do my workouts in the evening. Like, I'm not going to be able to attend Little League. All of that really comes together, and that, quote unquote, work-life balance really does matter. And if you can get your finances in order to where you can take a significant pay cut, and then because you took that pay cut, now you can afford, right? Now you have the opportunity in the personal funds to be able to do other things, whether that's in work or out of work. For me, like, I'm making probably less than 25, maybe less than 20% of what I used to make, but I am 100 times happier. I'm 100 times more financially stable. It's more enjoyable. I really don't consider what I do work. I know that's really cliche, but I just come in here, and Gibson Reports allows me to be able to get out my creative bug that's inside of me, I guess, or like my creative whims of doing marketing stuff, doing my videos, doing other things in the industry other than just having to grind away and do what somebody else is told me to do. So I think that just being able to do that, it's really going to change the way that you search for a job, the way you search to be able to do things. And, if you get everything aligned and you take a job and it's not working out, cut ties, get out. Right.
But how long have you, okay, so I know Gibson Reports has been a little bit longer, but VDoor Locksmith, how long have you actually been doing that now?
So in May will be 2 years.
Yeah, you have had phenomenal growth, right? So if you make this pivot, job seekers, to this entrepreneurial, bend like David did, there is those years in the beginning where it takes some time to build it and grow it. But if you look at the amount of growth that you've had, David, over that time, you may make a little bit less now, but you're building a future that's going to be far better. And with a passion doing stuff that you love. And that's kind of hard to beat.
There's definitely no ceiling in the position that I'm in now. Before, there was 100% of ceiling. Like, somebody else owned the company. So there's no way that I'm going to be able to move up the ranks and be the owner of the company unless, they pass away or something crazy like that. Like, I'm not going to take over the company. So there are certain limitations with being in a employed position, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Obviously, I lived that as well, but now being in this, like, the ceiling's taking away, and I can grow the company at the pace that I want to be able to grow it at, because I don't have the personal, the home life stress of saying, you need to be able to bring in more money. You got to go make more sales. You got to go do these things. So for last year, for 2020, our strategy didn't change one bit. Like, we didn't really do anything different. Like, VDoor Locksmith show got a little bit more aggressive with the show because the chimes were changing. But as far as having to scale back or, not do certain things with money and stuff, we did that for about a month or so. And then we're like, yeah, we're okay. And we kept, plugging away at the things that we already had planned in January of last year and just kind of kept going with it. And it's because of the way that we were able to, kind of set things up financially that just makes such a big difference. And, and if somebody's wanting to go this route, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to be able to help and tell you whatever I can that may be able to, get you going. But yeah, there's definitely the opportunity that once you start it and you start to grow it, and then you'll start to see other ideas and other ways that you can pivot and different things that you can do within your company or creating a show or doing marketing stuff. I'm getting job opportunities to be able to teach people how to market within the oil and gas space. I never set out to do this, but now that there's those opportunities there because I've been so successful with my company with it. So these opportunities will start to come along and you can reach to, greater financial heights. I'm not there yet. I definitely see, my girlfriend's always like, oh, at any moment, everything's just going to go crazy, isn't it? I'm like, yes, any moment, everything is just going to go crazy. So,
job seekers, what I would say is, one, if you are interested in pivoting within your industry, go out, find David on LinkedIn and his other platforms and connect in with him. You're going to see how he's done it successfully within his industry in Gibson Reports. And then if you have that entrepreneurial bent, I recommend you follow him as well, because you're going to see everything that he's done going VDoor Locksmith and even beyond that with the different things that he shares and the information that's going to help make that whole process easier for you. And there's nothing saying that you can't go down both paths, right, David? I mean, you can pursue a job full force in your profession and then also pursue something entrepreneurial. And if you get both of them to hit, fantastic. If you only get one or the other, you're still in a great place.
I like to say, do one thing every day for whatever that journey is. If it's your entrepreneurial journey, just do one thing each day. And all of those things will start to add up and you'll see the enjoyment that you get, and it'll get to where one thing's not enough. And you're going to want to be doing 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And then those little things are going to start to add up until the point in time to where you get laid off, you decide to make the jump. It's just like having children. You're never 100% ready. Something will happen. You will be pushed that direction and you just go with it. Right. And then, one of the other things I would say I did at the very beginning of mine is I turned off all my social media except for LinkedIn. Whatever social media is specific to you and your industry. If you're in fitness and you're on Instagram, pick that one. If you're somewhere else, pick one, go full force into that one, and turn off all of the other distractions. Turn them all off, and then keep your head down for about 6 months. Stay focused on whatever that thing is. And then when you come out of it, then start bringing some of the others back in. But stay really laser-like focused right there at the beginning to make sure you can get over those initial hurdles, get the initial bit of revenue coming in, get to where, the monthly revenue is enough to where you've paid off all your bills, you've got all the things done, and then you can start using some of the other time and some of the other energy to do some of the other things.
Excellent. David, thank you so much for being so giving of your time and sharing your journey and your story and all of your advice to job seekers. We all know it's a really hard market out there for you job seekers. So we're going to continue to do more videos with other individuals that we think have a great story that you might be interested in trying to follow a path similar to theirs. Thank you again, David, for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here, and I hope this helps somebody start their entrepreneurial journey or helps them land a job.
Awesome. All right, job seekers, as always, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing that. If you feel like this video was helpful, give us that thumbs up in the end, as it always does help. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.